Hi writers, welcome back. This is your 9th fiction writing lesson, and today we are going to talk about showing, not telling. We're going to do this by focusing on tiny, realistic details. So in Henry and Mudge and the Happy Cat, we talked about some different things. So last week we looked at this book and we talked about the ways that Cynthia Rylant made it realistic. The details showed us that this was a real home with a real boy in it who feels really sad when he has to give up the cat. Remember Dave? Cynthia Rylant didn't just tell us there was a real boy, a real cat, and real emotions. She showed us. She added tiny, realistic details to show her reader what happened in the story. So today, I want to teach you that writers show their readers what is happening in their story. One way writers do this is by picturing their story and then adding lots of the realistic, exact details that they are picturing in their mind to their writing. This way, readers can picture it too. Here's a boy, he is thinking about it, he is picturing that story in his head and adding lots of realistic, exact details. So how does Cynthia Rylant show us? When we meet the cat in this story, she doesn't just tell us that it was shabby, she shows us. She writes, "It had a saggy belly, skinny legs, and fur that looked like mashed prunes." Mashed prunes sounds gross. Cynthia Rylant really wanted us to picture how shabby the cat was. She uses a lot of tiny details. So let's try it for my story. So my character is Gretchen. The setting is outside near her new house. And the trouble or the adventure that we have created is she had a new fancy bike that got ruined in an accident. Gretchen had a new bike. The bike was fancy. How could we show that it is fancy? How could we describe it? So the bike we know is fancy. My words are telling us that, but how can we show that it is fancy? So let's try to picture it in our mind. Does it have a basket? Does it have a horn? Does it have streamers on the handle? What does the bike seat look like? So picture it in your mind, a fancy bike. What details are on a fancy bike? Realistic details. So your job now is writers show details by picturing them. So Gretchen had a new bike. The bike was fancy. I want you to pause for a second and think about how you would describe this fancy bike. Picture it in your mind and then say it out loud what you think would be great, realistic details to describe this bike. Go ahead and pause the video. All right, writers, those were some great suggestions that you came up with for your details and making that bike not only telling us that it was fancy, but showing us that it was fancy. So today, in your writing, as you go off, remember that the tiniest details will make a difference. You will want to do this in your own stories. So your challenge today is to picture the scene in your mind, then describe the tiny realistic details to bring every little part of the story to life. You ready to go show your readers? Good luck, writers.